Well, Steven, we're here. We're almost done with Community. I didn't think we'd ever make it, but we made it. And I think, how about, just for old time's sake, we record intro to the podcast just one more time.
Let's do it, Zach. I think we can handle it. If you like what we do here, make sure you mosey on over to patreon.com/can'tdisappointpodcast. For as little as $5 a month, you too can feed a Zach and Steven in need, and you'll get access to all sorts of awesome content. Our weekly live pre-show that we do, You Can't Diss a Pre-Show. We've got some bonus podcasts on there. Days and days, just scads of content over there for you. Plus maybe some new stuff coming soon, so make sure you put your ear to the ground, send us your bones, throw us at least a $5 and see what it'll get you.
Follow us on Twitter over at You Can't Diss a Pod and tell us what show we should talk about next.
If you just can't get enough, watch those patties and come over and double tap us on Instagram over at Can't Disappoint Podcast. We're also on Facebook and YouTube under the whole name of the show, You Can't Disappoint a Podcast. All sorts of vids, things to like, subscribe, and slap the bell to get notified.
After we finish the series finale of Community, we'll still be a weekly community podcast for the rest of 2022 as we conduct a series of community superlative podcasts where we'll be creating top 5 lists on several different community-related topics. Follow us on all our social medias to see how you can be a part of those final podcast episodes.
Speaking of 5, if you think that we're both 5-star men and this is a 5-star show, make sure you leave a review wherever you review your podcasts, on Apple Music, on Yelp, on Spotify, on TripAdvisor. We're there. Just check us out.
Everyone, it has been an honor to do this Community Rewatch podcast for the past few years, and I hope you'll stick around with us as we wrap it up and move on to the next thing. Steven, what do you have to say as we move onward and upward?
Thanks for sticking with us as long as you have. We hope that you hitch your get-alongs to our pick-em-up and ride along with us into whatever the future holds.
All right, and for one of the last times, let's do it. Let's start the episode of You Can't Disappoint a Podcast. Okay. Gobble, 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 all you little turkeys out there. Welcome back. Welcome to a very festive episode of You Can't Disappoint a Podcast in our continuing series of community superlatives. I am Zach. And I'm not going to say it. It's just my name.
Oh.
You can talk too.
I'm Steven, and...
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
In case
I was imitating a turkey, not of a Native American, just in case anyone was unsure.
Oh, shit. Yeah. That was not an appropriate... The only culture that was appropriating was turkey culture.
Mm-hmm.
I'm glad you said that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let everyone at home know. You'll know when I...
Is it worse the Americanized version of hollering, I'll say, as they think Native Americans did, is very similar to the noise of a turkey. Is that bad?
Very similar. Probably.
That's bad, right?
Do you think that they just, associated it because of our Western understanding of Thanksgiving?
Well, I'm glad you brought it up, because speaking of Western version of Thanksgiving, this podcast is coming out closest to the American holiday Thanksgiving that we probably shouldn't celebrate, but still do, and I still quite enjoy. So we're going to get into that a little bit before we get into this week's list ranking the top 5 golden era episodes of Community. But first, we've got to shout out our patrons, because we wouldn't be able to do any of this without them, and they're a big part of the drive that keeps us going. We know we've got people that are just eating this slop that we keep putting out, and so
they're
we're gonna
gobbling
keep putting it out. Yeah.
Yeah, we're so thankful for you guys, because, we're astounded every time just anyone listens to the show, but the fact that you guys also support us on that level means a lot to us and helps keep pushing the show forward, and hopefully you like what you get out of it.
Well, the people who are getting something out of it, let's list them. Danny M. Lugo, Mary Baker Budisa, Brian Thurman, Planeswalker Prez, who I feel bad for saying they were my least favorite a few weeks ago. Should I take that back? I'm not gonna. Emmy Azrael, of course, Brandon Folkemer, and Conversations with Robbie Sherman. So if you like what we do here, patreon.com/can'tdisappointpodcast gets this podcast early every week and all of the extra stuff. Over 100 Patreon exclusive podcast.
Over 100
Just
Patreon
waiting for you
exclusive
over there.
podcast. Be thankful.
And I want to mention really quick before we shout out communities, Patreon, we're starting to wrap up, getting really close to wrapping up Cowboy Bebop as we're covering it there. And it's about time to figure out what's going to be coming next, because on our Patreon, we're going to always have, along with our free show with The Good Place and Community, a weekly Patreon exclusive podcast or rewatch podcast that's a little more off the cuff like Brokeback Bebop is, but I think that's really fun. And it allows us to talk about some stuff that we're excited to talk about that doesn't exactly need to be like our bread and butter, what we're pouring everything into podcast, right?
Yeah.
And I don't know, what's it going to be? We've got to start thinking about America's Next Top Patreon podcast. We've had a couple of ideas that we've talked about in the past, and I'm excited to see what they are. It's going to be fun. So come hang out with us. Meanwhile, I really wish at Communities on Twitter, our proud community Papa would hang out with us.
Yeah, me too. I stand outside in the pouring rain. I've done the boombox and the feather duster thing. I was butt naked underneath. And just nothing.
Well, it might not have helped, Steven, that this morning when we had our Thanksgiving luncheon with Papa, that you did show up in a skimpy, cultural appropriated Native American headdress and garb.
I thought it was sexy. You could see my belly button.
Yeah, but he was working. He was at work.
I mean, we brought a picnic.
So thanks, communities, assuming the cease and desist and restraining order don't go through. We appreciate it. We love your support. We're very glad that you've helped us build what we do here. It's your fault.
You know,
So you
no
gotta
one
live with
quite
that.
stuffs our cornucopia full of thanks and gives it to us quite the way Papa does.
Yeah. Really thankful for Papa just giving and giving until I can't take no more.
Thank
Thanks,
you. That's all we can say.
So Thanksgiving, I think weirdly, as I've gotten older, it's like the most consistent one, the most consistent holiday where the biggest group of people typically, and I don't really know what I'm doing this year, in all honesty, recording ahead of Thanksgiving, it's like the most consistent one where the biggest group of family typically gets together for dinner for me. How is that for you? Is Thanksgiving a big deal?
Thanksgiving's my favorite holiday.
It is mine too. Even like totally removed from why we celebrate
Yeah.
Thanksgiving at the heart of it. I mean, because of course, taking some time to realize and appreciate what you're thankful for in your life is always great. But like to the history, like the reason we
Yeah.
celebrate Thanksgiving. Aside
I
from
really
that,
don't-
it's my favorite too.
I don't fuck with Christmas like that. Like, it's fine. But I feel like Christmas is a little bit more depressing than Thanksgiving.
And Christmas is so much pressure.
Yeah.
If you're buying gifts for family or not, if you're buying gifts for your partner or not, what you're getting, what other people are getting, what's on, it's a lot of pressure. And on top of, like, obviously Thanksgiving brings a lot of family trauma when you're all at the dinner table talking about stuff, and I don't know, grandma says something a little racist and then everyone's real sad, you know. Thanksgiving, well, like Christmas has that, and there's all the, well, grandma also didn't get me anything for Christmas, so she's a racist and a cheapskate.
Yeah. You and Grandma got some beef, huh?
Yeah, I should probably call her.
Cuss her out again.
I adore my grandma, so that was purely hypothetical. One of the family members I can truly say that I adore is my grandmother. But this isn't Mary Lou cast. Thanksgiving foods. I was curious, thinking about our cultural differences growing up at Thanksgiving.
What do the black people have at their Thanksgiving?
Yeah,
You wanna
like,
know
can
the
I touch your
goods.
hair? No, what I was wondering, I feel like what's different are the sides, right?
Probably.
But I feel like there's more similarities than differences. Are you upset
would
that I'm
hope so.
asking this? That was a restrained probably.
I'm trying to think. I think that most of the sides are probably the same. Y'all do weird stuff with the sweet potatoes, but
Yeah, and so what do you do for sweet potatoes?
sweet
Like a
potatoes,
baked potato?
candied yams.
So like it's still like sweetened.
Yeah, but it's not like marshmallow fluff.
It's like mashed potato. Well, there's a difference between sweet potatoes, and that's like a sweet potato casserole.
You can call it a casserole, but it's just mashed potatoes and
With
marshmallows.
stuff on top. I really
Yeah.
like. My grandma makes really good sweet potato casserole that has more to it.
I
than-
like sweet potato casserole. It's just the incorrect way to eat it.
Hers does have marshmallows on top, but it's more than that too. There's like a crumble layer and then like
Ooh.
marshmallows on top, and it's really
Fuck with
good.
all that. I love it. It's delicious. It's just different.
Do you
Do you guys have greens?
That's what I was gonna say. Like, I'm gonna go as westernly stereotypical as I can.
What's your like go-to, like if you're going through the do you guys do buffet style serving line just in the home for Thanksgiving, or do you
Yeah,
guys
it's like we're in my grandma's kitchen and there are dishes all over the place, and when
Yeah, and
everything's
you go
ready,
scoop.
everyone
Okay,
grabs a
that's
plate and scoops
consistent.
what they want.
what's your go-to plate? What's on that bad boy?
There are things I fuck with and things I don't fuck with. I gotta get turkey. I love turkey. I do not get ham. I don't like ham that much.
Yeah.
Don't have anything
No
against
pork,
it.
no swine in your body, no
Yeah.
swine.
Don't have anything against it. I'm not against
Keep it kosher.
that type of pig. But no, it's never going on my plate. It's not my choice. I really, really like stuffing. And this is a weird one. My grandma sometimes makes like a big thing of regular stuffing and a small thing of oyster stuffing, which is stuffing that has fucking oysters in it. And I
Interesting.
like that shit.
Never heard of that one.
I don't usually go for like cranberry sauce type stuff. I'm not really on like mac and cheese is often at the table, and I'm gonna pass that up for other stuff. I'll probably do some mashed potatoes and gravy. I'll definitely do green beans, maybe
So you
corn.
passed up the mac and cheese?
I'm not a mac and cheese guy
Oh my god.
in general. Because on Thanksgiving, I want stuffing, I want mashed potatoes, I want some veggies, I do want sweet potato casserole, I want all kinds of other stuff, and mac and cheese is like on every table all the time. It's like I'm gonna pass it up to have like the Thanksgiving delicacies. That's not the case for you. And I'll tell you something that might make you mad. As a whole, now I don't like Kraft mac and cheese, obviously, but I'm also not just in general a big fan of like the oven crispy layer on top mac and cheese. I do not like the crispy skin on top at all.
You're wrong.
I'm more like like my ideal mac and cheese is like shells and cheese sauce kind of thing, but like a good one, not like a box one. Now go ahead, shit all over my.
that's
my
fine.
people.
That's you got to work with what you got.
I know
I'm
that you're
imagining
gonna
your
have
mac and cheese is
vegetables
not
that
as
I
good.
won't have. We don't get. We're all about the carbs.
So
Rolls
I
are
get the
good.
turkey, I get the ham, I get the greens. I like the baked oven baked mac and cheese. Give me the sweet potatoes. Give me the green beans.
Yeah.
I don't need any cranberry sauce. What the fuck
Nope.
for that? But I will be. So another difference. We have dressing, not stuffing. They're almost the same, except dressing doesn't go inside a turkey. You just make
Neither.
it in
I have never ever had turkey. With
Well, then you're
anything
eating
inside of it.
dressing.
But I believe that that's like a soda and pop type discussion.
Well, but dressing is my favorite Thanksgiving food. I normally try and get like a tub just for myself of it if I can. I will eat it all day, all night. Now I like the turkey leg. Depending on whether I'm at my like big
And the more of a
families-
man you become, the more of a right
Thanksgiving.
you have to it.
Yeah, then we have like the sliced because that's like a mixed family between like my side of the family and then my uncle's girlfriend and her Caucasian side of the family. So it's normally a good mix of food going on there, big gathering. But if I'm at my other uncle, who he like makes the turkey and does all that stuff. I'll have all that jazz, and then I like gotta get the mashed potatoes if there's some, but get the gravy all over everything. I really
Yeah,
like.
sure.
I'm not a like. Some people are like, oh, my food can't touch. I would mash mine into a smoothie
Well-
and eat it up with a spoon.
When it comes to most Thanksgiving foods, I am that way. I do not mind with like my potatoes, my corn, my beans, my turkey. All of it can have gravy on it. All of it can have potatoes and each other on it. I would probably put, because it's sweet potato casserole and it's more desserty, I would put it on a separate plate. I don't want my gravy on that. Turkey skin. I love the turkey skin. Obviously, I love a
Yeah.
turkey leg, but it's more important to me that I get a couple rips of the turkey skin.
I like turkey skin quite a bit. I don't discriminate.
The last thing I want to ask before we move on, because now this is just the Thanksgiving episode.
It
I
is.
want to ask you something that doesn't get talked about ever near enough when it comes to Thanksgiving. Along with these delicious foods, what is your drink of choice? Is there like a family drink that's always available? Do you have a soda or a water? What's the drink at Thanksgiving?
No, I don't have a specific one. As an adult, it's been some sort of alcoholic beverage.
Fair.
I'm
My
a
family
whiskey
doesn't
drinker,
drink, so it's boring as shit. There is no alcohol at the Thanksgiving.
Yeah, I normally Thanksgiving I like to go with a nice whiskey. When
My
I was a
grandma
kid,
makes
I don't know,
really
some
good
kind of pop.
lemonade, so it's lemonade for me.
Yeah, we don't really have like a family drink.
Well, listicle us in, everyone. What are your top 5 grandma lemonades on Thanksgiving? We want to hear all about it.
Number 5. You may think that your Burger King lemonade doesn't have foot lettuce in it. But apparently, according to one Reddit post.
I have a feeling that I definitely said some things that are going to strike a nerve with some people about my food. So if something either of us said made you mad about your Thanksgiving, let us know. And let's move on to what we're here to talk about, the third of our community superlative episodes. These have been a lot of fun so far. I love making these lists.
I have really enjoyed this as well, Zach.
Today, we're talking about a big one, but as we were discussing before we started recording, kind of an easier list for me to make. Today, we're talking about the top 5 golden era episodes of Community, so we're taking into consideration all of the first 3 seasons. We've had a lot of conversations about the Mount Rushmore of Community, and while sure, there are episodes from 4 through 6 that could squeak its way onto there, most of them are coming from this golden era for me. So that
Absolutely.
I put some thought into this before. What are the top episodes of Community? So I was able to decide this pretty easily. What about you?
Nice. Yeah, it wasn't too hard for me. I have 2 honorable mentions, but for the most part, it wasn't too hard for me to make this list.
Let's hear those honorable mentions. Throw them at me. What's honorable?
Pillows and Blankets and Fistful of Paintballs are my 2 honorable mentions.
Neither of those on my list or my honorable mentions.
Mm-hmm.
My
so many good
honorable
episodes to choose
mentions.
from.
I've got 4 honorable mentions that I'll go through real fast. Regional holiday music, again, makes the honorable mention list. Contemporary American poultry, again, makes an honorable mention list. Epidemiology, on the honorable mention list. And comparative religion.
Okay, nice.
I've talked about that earlier, how much I like that one.
Yeah.
Those are my honorable mentions, which means we got to get into the nitty and the gritty. What's your number 5?
My number 5, Zach, and I think you'll be proud of me for this one because I know how much you love this episode. Cooperative Calligraphy.
Great. Good choice.
Yeah. I think
Why
it's
do
an
you pick
excellent
it? Why do you put it
episode.
there?
I love when the study group is all fighting and they're fighting and Troy snaps. I think that's so funny every time. They do it a couple times and it makes me laugh so hard. The way the gang plays off of each other is so good. Annie's boobs. What more can I say?
Can't complain. Well, that's a great segue. My number 5 is also cooperative calligraphy.
Nice.
Community really nails the bottle episode, which often comes out of a necessity to make slightly less expensive episodes. And in the olden days could kind of be like the Clippy Show episodes where there's not a lot to the bottle episode.
Yeah.
But really, from a storytelling level, if you get all of your major characters in one place and let all hell break loose, that can be the most exciting place to be for your characters. And Community does that all the time, and I don't think it does it better than in Cooperative Calligraphy, one of the greatest bottle episodes of any show. My number 5.
Absolutely. My number 4, near dear to my heart episode, Mixology Certification. I think it's
Good
a
choice.
great episode. And it belongs in my top 5. I think the way that Troy matures, Annie has a great storyline. I think Britta and Jeff's runner is funny, and I don't mind it as much as you and I are on the same page about how I feel about most of the relationships in the show. I think this is at a point where they're getting Britta and Jeff right, and it's believable.
Yeah,
that
they just
like
make out when they get drunk. That's fine.
Yeah. Like, it's I buy that. And I think that Abed in that episode is fantastic with his bar friend that he makes. It ends up being
Paul F.
not what he
Tompkins in
expects.
that one, right?
Yeah, Paul F. Tompkins.
That episode's not on my list. What I'd like to mention about it
is Pierce getting stuck in the door in his
yeah,
wheelchair.
Greatest F story of any episode of Community. No, I want to mention that moment in the end of the episode when Troy drops off Annie and they have that heart to heart. How affecting it is that that's a moment of friendship between opposite sex people. That does
Yeah.
not happen on television very often. A truly beautiful moment of platonic love that I think is really special.
Any other show would have had them kiss there.
Yes. And Community is a far better show for letting some relationships not be there. My number 4, one of my favorites, one that as I think about it, along with a couple on this list, just gets higher and higher. My number 4 is Documentary Filmmaking Redux.
Nice.
I think it's a hilarious
Great episode.
You know how much I love the Dean. I think it might be Joel McHale's funniest episode with how invested he gets into becoming the Dean and then how truly the show never wants Jeff to be anything but the cool guy who's got it all under control or a guy who's having a mental breakdown.
Yeah.
This is a different angle of weird and funny that Joel gets to play that I think is really solid for a lot of other reasons I've discussed before. Number 4, Documentary Filmmaking, Redouard.
My number 3, an episode that I'm probably going to rewatch today because I love it so much.
Halloween.
Epidemiology. I talked about it in a previous episode quite a bit, but I think that Troy's my favorite character, and this is one of my favorite Troy episodes. I love the Jeff being a zombie on his BlackBerry.
Texting
is
mindlessly, very funny.
hilarious and holds up to this day, probably even better than it did back then. That joke, the alien references are great. The mysterious like bulk taco meat from the military supply store.
Don't get me wrong, if we were at that party, we would have been
I would have been up to
over.
my goddamn nipples.
Like, they have
in
how much
taco
ground
meat.
beef? Okay.
They're like, give me more. The initial calling out of Leonard's a zombie. It's so funny. I think that episode's just great. And the fact that ABBA's playing in the background, who thinks of that? I think that's just so funny.
Really great.
Like, it just makes me laugh, and that's why I like this show.
The way
because
that
it's just funny.
In a couple of moments in this comedic farce, ABBA becomes the absolute perfect soundtrack for moments of genuine horror towards the end. And Dancing Queen or something is playing. It's great. That was what, your number 3?
That's my number 3.
My number 3 is, and it kind of feels like, for me, there are 2 episodes that you're obligated to put on this list, I kind of think. And I didn't make this decision out of obligation, but these were like 2 of the pretty easy gimmies, right?
Yeah.
My number 3 is Advanced Dungeons and Dragons.
Good choice.
One of the best episodes of the show. I like a couple just a little bit more than it. There's nothing else to say about it. It's a perfect episode of television. And there's a lot to unpack in it, and it's funny every time. And it's one of the best examples of taking a comedic farce homage episode into really true, heartfelt, really wonderful stuff with Neil's character there. So that's my number 3.
My number 2, I think one of the most original and well done episodes of certainly sitcom, but probably television as a whole. I think it should be in like the museum of television because it's so just brilliant and perfect. Remedial Chaos Theory.
Number
I
2?
think that the mere staying power that Donald Glover meme has, where he walks in, everything's on fire. I see that meme every day on Twitter
From
on
people
my
who have
not
never
community
seen
account.
Community, of course.
Yeah, I see it constantly,
And that's not to say that's why the episode is great, because
No.
it transcends the show. Every moment of that episode,
every second
is
is
so
well
clever.
done. All 6 variants, or 7 technically, are so funny and would be like, I don't know, just the way this episode goes so off the rails, and any second you're like, oh, this is what this episode is. Oh my god, it just like, it's so good. They set it up, they knock it down, it's perfect.
I'll save what I want to. I'll have some response later, but not yet. My number 2 is Paradigms of Human Memory.
Nice.
I love this episode. I think because of how many clips that there are, it's like pound for pound probably the funniest, jokiest episode of the whole show. It has a lot of just the whole group riffing off of each other, but it's like the opposite of a bottle episode because they're all over the world. I've talked about it in previous ones of these. I think it's so funny, and if you think I'm rating it too high, go watch it again.
Yeah, it's great. So funny. My number 1 maybe my favorite episode of the show, Advanced Dungeons and Dragons. We've talked about it a lot at great length. I think that the way that they have such an incredible homage episode that also
That's
ties
a callback
in
to a couple weeks ago, in case anyone didn't pick up on that.
Ties in the seriousness of what's going on with Neil, and the real world effects that name had on the actor. I think it's such a mature look at it. It's funny to say mature look when you're playing a board game, but it just does such a good job of adding weight and adding stakes to an episode that would have been great on its own, but that just means it matters because of that. And I think that's really important.
Truly, Dungeons and Dragons, there's not a lot cheesy and low stakes and childlike about it. I don't play it, but it is like a serious matter for the people that play it. And it would have been so easy for a show to do like an episode that just makes fun of the type of people that are into that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And they pull a couple of those jokes, but that's not the point here. And I think it's so much more important of an episode for it. Mm-hmm. My number one, I already kind of gave it away. My number one's Remedial Chaos Theory. It's just great. I think it's so amazing that in a world before Marvel introduced the multiverse into like the pop culture lexicon, it's a really complicated idea for an episode of television that could be way too convoluted to follow for the average audience member. And I think they find a way to really make it accessible and funny and easy to follow, even as you are hopping from universe to universe within the episode.
And they explain it so well. The concept of a six-sided die is something everyone can understand.
Or the concept of all of the noises and beats that we know mean we're back to the beginning of the thing when people are... There's like a ding, I'll get the door, or the Roxanne music, or Jeff hitting his head.
Yeah.
It's one of the most tightly written episodes of television, period. Mm-hmm. And I said that shit. It's my number one.
Yeah, I love it. Love it, love it, love it.
We did it,
we didn't fight. Yeah, we didn't fight at all. I think that it's hard because all those episodes are great.
And I don't disagree with any of yours. I see why you picked them. It was tough. Let's get into the emails. We've got some emails of some
Matt
lists.
number one.
What do other people think?
Matt number one thinks number 5 is Pillows and Blankets. Number 4, Fistful of Paintballs. Those were 2 honorable mentions on mine. 3, Cooperative Calligraphy. We both had that one. Number 2, Debate 109.
Great episode. Doesn't belong on that list.
No.
Sorry.
Number 1, Conspiracy Theories Interior
sure.
Design. I can't argue that. I think that's a really good episode.
Conspiracy Theories,
I'm not mad at Matt for that one.
I can understand why that's the episode that speaks to someone the most. Yep.
Yeah.
Coming up next, we've got coming in hot from Matt. I promise you, it's 2 different Matts.
Matt number 2, Matt Part Redir.
Matt Ridois, number 5. To mirror the other Matt, their number 5 is Conspiracy Theories and Interior Design. Made it onto their list as well. Number 4, Cooperative Calligraphy. That's coming up a lot. Mm-hmm. Number 3, we got Epidemiology. Was that on yours? Yes, it was.
That was number 3 for mine.
3? And we've got also number 2, Modern Warfare. Didn't make it on mine, but I have a lot of respect for that episode.
Yeah.
And I would understand why that's someone's number 1 if they so choose. And their number 1 is also, as mine is, Remedial Chaos Theory. Great list. Mm-hmm. Matt number 2.
Great list. Brandon Fulcomer, who earned his name last week after an excellent number 1 choice, has number 5, A Paradigms of Human Memory. Great episode. The least filler clip show episode ever. Agreed. Number 4, Remedial Chaos Theory. Maybe hot take all the way at 4. For me, it's an all-time great episode, but the initial shock humor of Troy's timeline can't be matched on rewatches. That's fair.
I think it's deeply rewatchable.
I think so too.
But
that first time, you're like, what the fuck?
I won't take it away from you. I'm not going to hate on him for that one. We don't have to dox Brendan.
Number
his
3,
name's mine now. It's not his anymore.
Number 3, Pillows and Blankets. Part man, part pillow, all carnage. I want to talk about it because it was an honorable mention, I think, on most of mine.
It hasn't shown up a lot. It hasn't. Yeah.
I don't think there are very many funnier scenes than Pierce's Pillow Man fighting the kids. Oh my god, that's hilarious. That's so funny.
Community had a lot of balls for turning their show into something that could have aired on PBS for an entire episode and never breaking the facade. You know, it's pretty baller. I'll give you that one.
Number 2, Cooperative Calligraphy, the bottle episode. Poor Abed, he may as well sit in the corner with a bucket on his head. Yeah, that's a great episode. And number 1, Advanced Dungeons and Dragons. My number 1, Pierce's best episode and maybe the most creative of the whole series. Thanks, guys. Brandon. Great list, Brandon.
Yeah, great list, Brandon. Up next, the last one we've got from Jennifer. We've been hearing from her. Thanks for all your lists. Top 5 Golden Era episodes. No. They said no. They're all the best except for competitive wine tasting.
Currently sitting last on our Patreon.
Yes, currently on the
ranking.
pre-show over on Patreon. We've been doing a tiered ranking of every episode of Community, and we're not finished with it as of recording, but at this moment, competitive wine tasting is dead last, yeah?
Mm-hmm.
And it's mainly because of Troy pretending to get sexually assaulted and
That's
no
rough.
one telling him that's a bad thing to do.
Bad
Okay.
behavior.
Jennifer goes on to say, okay, I'll try, but there'll be an alpha order because I won't rank them further.
Yeah, no betas around here.
Yeah, that's my challenge to you guys. Let's get a ranking of me and Steven in alpha order. We'd love to hear that. Send them into Scrubs Podcast iHeart at gmail.com. Okay, so Jennifer's 5, Advanced Dungeons and Dragons, Introduction to Film.
Whoa.
Deep cut. Cooperative Calligraphy, Mixology Certification, and I like to see this one here, Virtual Systems Analysis,
Yeah.
one of my underrated ones. Good list, Jennifer.
Introduction to Film. That's a surprising one, but it's a great episode.
I think that episode really emotionally resonates with some people.
Mm-hmm.
And with a lot of these episodes, like your mixology certifications, it's hard to argue against it being the best if it really emotionally resonates with you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So that's probably where that's my guess. Thanks, everyone. Let us know what you think of our list and let us know still what yours are. I don't care if you listen to this years after we've recorded it. I would still like to know what your top 5 episodes of the Golden Era, or even your argument of if the Golden Era is the Golden Era. Do you think I've mislabeled it? I don't know. Let's have
that's
a
a
label
good question, because some
argument.
people really think that, like, 5 and 6 are where it's at.
That's why I said 4 through 6 is the silver era. It's still very, very good. It's not like it's not
Yeah.
the shit era. Well, let's wrap things up here. If you guys, next week we're going to be back for the 4th of these superlative episodes. We're dwindling these down after 7 superlative episodes. We're going to be wrapping up things here on You Can't Disappoint a Podcast until we return for our movie coverage on the final Monday of December with a community series roundtable podcast.
Hell
It's going to be
yeah.
big. It's going to be our we kind of had our finale with the finale episode of Community, but that's going to be our send off here for a while.
Our
So
swan song, if you will.
stay tuned with us through the month of December. It's going to be a lot of fun. And if you like us enough that you want to support us further, patreon.com/can't disappoint a podcast. Nope. Patreon.com/can't disappoint podcast. All kinds of exclusive content. Brokeback Bebop is sometimes one of my favorite things that we do here at all. It's a great podcast. And the pre-show is a lot of fun too. And you can get this podcast a full week early every single week. Steven,
Is there more to that sentence, or you just...
where can the people find us?
Well, if you don't like us enough or give
Yeah.
a shit about any of that stuff, you can follow us over on Twitter, over at You Can't Disapod. We're also on Instagram under the... I almost said acronym, but under...
Why do you slip up on Instagram every time? You were thinking of a different word.
Yeah, I was trying to think of a
Okay,
different,
that's fine.
like, under the moniker at Can't Disappoint Podcast. We're
Sure.
also on YouTube and Facebook under the whole name of the show, You Can't Disappoint a Podcast. So if you're interested in seeing the video feed of that round table at the end of the year, come check it out there, because you'll get to see our smiling faces, probably.
It's been a lot of fun. I want to thank you guys for supporting us. And just because we're dwindling down here, keep telling people about this show. I love that we're about to have a complete podcast that people will always be able to find and go through. So no matter when you're listening to
No
this,
matter where,
we're really glad that
Enterprise
you're
will
here.
take you there. And we're thankful for you. Happy Thanksgiving, Zach.
I'm not thankful for Enterprise. They've really fucked me over.
Yeah,
but
not them.
Thanksgiving. Happy Thanksgiving, Steven. Happy Thanksgiving, everyone. God bless us, everyone. I don't know. I hope you guys have a great Thanksgiving. I hope you've had fun listening to us ramble on your holiday, perhaps. And from inside the Dreamatorium, Black Lives Matter, I'm Zach.
I'm Steven.
We love you very much, and we will see you next week.
Gobble, 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 gobble.
Yeah, just gobble it.
Gobble it.
Gobble that shit.
Gobble it of fire.
Thank you, India.